Wow, sillies, you really liked the last video. I would like to say that I am still not a Helldivers YouTuber, but given the absence of other guides, I will happily try my best to create the content that is wanted. And what is wanted is a guide on how to not blow each other up with the Airburst launcher, because oh my gosh, not only was it requested in the comments of the last video by this individual, but I think some of you need some help with it, which is no problem because it is a very low pricked weapon, so I don't blame you for not understanding how it works. That being said, if you aren't running it, it's probably best to be running Fortified for that explosive resistance until Liberty Day on the 26th of October. Now, we'll be moving into the video soon, so make sure to grab your popcorn and your helmets, Helldivers. With the galactic distribution of the Airburst launcher to celebrate the upcoming event of Liberty Day, many Helldivers have decided to give it a try, whereas before they wouldn't, given that it is only a medium-penetrating rocket launcher meant to take down medium to small chaff enemies. When realistically they believe that they could just use their primary to deal with these enemies and bring something more favorable like the recoilless rocket launcher to take down heavies. Now, do not be fooled, this weapon is a lot more capable than you'd first believe. Getting into it, we are going to be seeing that it has two firing modes. It's cluster mode, where it does not go very far, but it will detonate upon contact with a surface, enemy, or if it flies too far without making contact with either, it will detonate. These explosions will be it will be 150 ballistic damage and 500 explosive damage. That's not counting the first one. The first one will do more ballistic damage and less explosive, and then all of the smaller ones will do the higher explosive. The flak does the same damage, but instead of exploding based on contact or distance, it will go much farther and will deal with enemies by detection of their proximity. This will also detect your friendlies, however, so be careful in which direction you shoot it, because it will fire, and even if your teammate's standing next to you, it could detect them and then set off the chain detonation, taking both of you out. In one firing mode, you can use it to take down Stingrays, gunships, and Shriekers, and in the other one, you can use it to clear out waves of medium to small enemies, providing that much needed space. Its call-in time is roughly around 7 seconds, with your full ship upgrades reducing it down to roughly around 4 seconds. Its cooldown time goes from 480 seconds to 140, which is the exact same as the HMG and all other support weapons. Unlocking this weapon at level 15 for 8,000 requisition slips rewards you with your very own Pocket Eagle airstrike. With a total of 6 missiles, 1 in the launcher and 5 in the backpack, unfortunately suffering from a 5-second stationary reload, you do have to pick and choose when you use this thing. That being said, though, it excels at clearing out lots of medium to light enemies quickly, which means that you usually will have a chance to reload it, given that the biggest downfall to stationary reloads is being swarmed by those smaller enemies when you're trying to do it, especially when it comes to the recoilless, where you will take out the large enemy and then all of the little ones will come swarm you when you're trying to reload. Now, let's talk performance. Using this against all 3 factions, it performs very similarly, however it does have its weak points and its strong points. I believe that this weapon strongly performs the best against the Illuminate. as there is only one armored unit in their whole catalog, currently as the game stands, that it cannot defeat. That being the Harvester. It can technically take down the Stingray, but it is very difficult, so I would not recommend it. If you are to try, definitely use the flak mode for taking out airborne targets. Against the voteless, overseer, and flesh mob enemies in the game, this weapon is more effective than the Fissilus Gundam. Being able to clear out massive waves of enemies with absolute ease. With the flesh mobs being completely unarmored and taking no reduced damage from the explosives, it should only take about one missile to take them out. Maybe at most two, but that's if you weren't aiming for them and they only got caught by a few of the smaller blasts. The overseers get taken out just the same. My recommended tactic is try and run around and kite them all together before firing a cluster missile. So put it in cluster, please. Almost always have this thing in cluster unless you're shooting at air targets. Gather them up and then fire a cluster missile into the crowd, and it should take out a large majority of the enemies, allowing you to do cleanup with just your rifle. Against the bugs, however, it also does very well. However, it does struggle a little in the department of, because you can't take out a Bile Titan. Trust me, I've tried, don't even attempt it. It is a bit difficult to utilize this weapon and not get caught in a... You fire one missile and you do not have the time to reload because you're being chased. The bugs' entire thing is overwhelming you, and they're really good at that, because even with being able to clear out an entire horde of them with just one missile, all it takes is for perhaps a charger or a Bile Titan to come out of that swarm, and you can't really do much against them. Unless, specifically with the Impalers and the Chargers, whether that be the Spore variant, the Behemoth variant, or the regular variant of Charger, if you aim under their feet or behind them, typically what I do is when they're charging at me, I will aim in cluster mode below their feet and pretend that I'm shooting it doesn't do a cluster, explosive that's going to hit their butt, and then it will fly under their legs, detonate, and then all of the smaller explosions will deal the damage to its rear, taking it out. This also applies to Impalers. Impalers are a bit more difficult, but it also is better to get it to detonate underneath them, even if their face is in the ground, than shoot them in the front, because it detonates in a circle, and then if you hit them, some of that circle won't hit them. So you want to do it underneath, and then it will detonate, and then it will be in the center of an explosion, whereas it would only be in the front of an explosion. Brood Commanders, Warriors, Stalkers, all other variants of bugs, it will only ever take one missile to take down, even if you're just firing at them like haphazardly. If you weren't aiming for them, there's a chance that the cluster could miss them, but it's very unlikely for that to happen, meaning that they will be taken down with mass amounts of ease. Unfortunately, because the bugs push you, I think the most successful combination I've had with the bugs is the Halt Shotgun paired with this weapon, because I can switch it into stun rounds, stop them from pushing me, and load another missile, and then you continue to use my primary until I build up enough distance to fire another missile. This weapon can close bug holes and disable the shields on Illuminate ships, meaning that you can use it to do objectives. You can also fire it into the bot fabricators, while it is a bit more difficult because they have the exhaust vents and you have to make sure it goes in. It's still a way to do it. Not recommended because it's wasting an offensive capability to take out a defensive structure. The automatons are a very interesting enemy in the sense of this weapon was not designed for them because they do not cluster up nearly as much as the other factions, and a lot of their units are heavily armored. Like the Charger and Impaler, the Hulks can be taken down with the cluster missile if you fire it behind them or underneath them. Recommended behind them for the Hulks, because when it does an explosion, it has a chance for one of the cluster missiles to come up and explode, hitting the exhaust port on the back of the Hulk, rendering them completely useless and putting them in a bleed out state. When it comes to the factory striders, you can deal damage to them by shooting them in the exhaust ports, but it's very difficult to do in the heat of the battle. So once again, that's not what the weapon is made for. While you can definitely still attempt to, it's best to have a teammate or a alternative way of taking care of armored units like the factory strider. When it comes to the war strider, just leave them. Don't even try. It's not worth it. They will ragdoll you and complete both with their guns and their grenades until you eventually perish because you've run out of stims. It's just not recommended. So the automatons do make it a bit difficult for this weapon to thrive. However, against the Devastators, the ones with the shields, the ones that don't have missiles, and the missiles, those can all be taken down with one missile, the Berserkers, and the Troopers. Nothing is more fun than atomizing a Trooper with a missile just because he looked at you funny. All around, I think that this weapon gets a rep that it does not deserve. I think that it is perfectly capable on its own, provided you bring something that gets rid of tanks. Even on the higher difficulties, tanks don't typically spawn the most. They will spawn around 3 to 4, which I am talking about the Annihilator tanks in the automatons front, which you can still take out by shooting a missile behind them and getting the exhaust port just like the Hulks. But if you want to expand this to all the factions, if you are bringing this, I recommend that you have some sort of AT on you. That does not mean that the weapon itself is designed for it. The weapon is designed and shines in the area of giving you breathing space to deal with groups of little enemies. I definitely think it is a fun alternative and can definitely provide something unique to the team, especially in city maps where the Eagle cluster bomb is likely to hit buildings and not hit the desired targets. It's more like a precision tool, but if you attached a bomb to the end of that precision tool. Unfortunately, it does have other competitors that are better, but that does not mean that it is not a valid weapon. And if I had to rank it anywhere, I would probably give it a 6.5 out of 10. Perhaps even a 7, but I believe what would make this weapon a little bit better would just be if the explosions had shrapnel to them, much like the Eruptor, because that would give it more capabilities and more power for taking out even more small enemies, which would be handy because every now and then there will be some that get out of your blast and survive. As a closing statement, I would like to quickly state that to every Helldiver who is using any sort of rocket launcher, do remember that it does have backblast, and if an enemy or if a teammate or enemy is behind you, that backblast will eliminate them. Thank you for your time, and I just want to say a special thank you to everyone who subscribed and liked and commented on my last video. It means the absolute world to me, and I can't believe that I saw some sort of results from just making a goofy video about a weapon that I really liked. If you disagree with this guide, please let me know. But if you want to hear more from me, I will always be in the comments reading whatever you guys have to say. That being said, Sugi out.